So I saw this article recently, and this is pretty much the nightmare scenario. She's got a great job. This company reaches out to her, poaches her, basically recruits her away from a good job, and 2 months later, they fire her. Now you're probably thinking, how can I avoid this happening to me? It's not to never switch jobs. There can be a lot of benefits in switching jobs and moving from one opportunity to another, but there are some things you need to do to make sure this doesn't happen to you. In today's video, I'm gonna go over exactly what those things are so you can avoid this scenario right here. Now, first and foremost, there's a lot of benefit to making moves in your career. Sometimes going from one company to another can mean a step up in role, responsibility, compensation, maybe even a better environment. So there is a really big benefit to doing this, but there is also risk. Anytime you move from one organization to another, well, that is a bit of risk. You are exposing yourself to risk. But you can mitigate that risk with these 3 easy steps. Now, make sure you watch to the very end, because if you miss even one of these tips, it could be the reason that situation happens to you. Now, the first thing you need to do is you need to research how the company is doing financially. So if this is a small company or a privately held company, then just Google them, right? Google them, see if there are news articles out there, see if there are any headlines. I like to go to Google, type in the company name, see what comes up, then go to news, read any articles. I just try to get an idea of, are they in good financial standing? You know, have they acquired companies? Have they had layoffs recently? All that information matters. And then if they're a publicly traded company, then it's really easy. You can do the same thing, Google them, look at news, look at the headlines. You can also go to Yahoo Finance and see what they have on the organization. How are they doing? The first thing you need to do is you need to make sure that the company is financially sound. If you make a move from one company to another company and that other company, that new one, is not financially sound, you are increasing the likelihood that you end up taking a job and they decide, okay, well, we need to make some cuts. And because you were the last in, now you are the first out. That can absolutely happen. They go, okay, well, we need to cut back somewhere. Well, where do we cut back? These people who are loyal and have been here for a long time, or this new person? Often that new person is a person who get cut. Again, last in, first out. But by looking at company finances and making sure that you feel good about where they stand financially, you can limit this risk. Now, the second way that you need to limit this risk is what you need to do is you need to go to Glassdoor. You need to go to Google and read reviews on the organization. This is one of those things where it can be really helpful if you do enough research, because if you go to their Glassdoor and you read about the organization, and it is just a litany of former employees talking about layoffs, talking about letting people go, talking about ineffective management, that right there, well, that could mean that moving to that organization represents a risk. But doing your research on the organization, understanding how they treat employees, getting an idea of how their former employees feel about the organization can help a ton. Now, if you see 1 or 2 really negative reviews, I would probably look over that. You know, I wouldn't consider that to be like an end all be all. It wouldn't keep me from accepting an opportunity I otherwise thought to be really great. But if I was to see a trend, if I was to see 10, 11, 12 of the same comments over and over again, and they're separated by date, you can see, well, this is from a month ago, this is from 6 months ago, this is from 2 years ago, and there's a consistent theme, that would make me wary on whether or not I would want to leave a great job to go to this opportunity, because it does, again, represent significant risk. The next thing you can do is when you're actually in their interview, there are questions I would want to ask the hiring manager to assess the risk from that person's perspective. And I really like to ask 3 questions if you want to make sure that you can assess risk. The first, I like to ask how many people are on this team, right? Because if you're on a team of 2 or 3, you're probably pretty critical to the organization. But if you're on a team of 20, 30, 40, maybe you feel a little bit, less protected from risk. You know, if they decide, oh, we got to pull back a little bit, especially if you see some of the financial stuff you're not comfortable with, maybe it feels a little bit uneasy to be in a team that large. The next thing I like to ask is about the performance objectives. What does this person need to accomplish in the first 6 months in order for you to consider this to be a good hire? Asking that question and getting an idea of if you're going to be able to perform those tasks, well, that also limits risk. Because if you come into the job and you're not performing well and they need to make some tough decisions, again, you might be an easy cut because last in, first out. So understanding, are you able to meet the objectives? You know, that's a great question to ask. Another question I like to ask is, why is this role open? And if they say, we're replacing somebody who was promoted, that's great. If they say, well, we're expanding the team, business has been going great and there's a huge demand and we have a backlog, etc., great. That also means low risk. If they say that, oh, they're replacing a person who is a low performer, well, I might want to dig in a little bit more or do more research, because that can mean a whole lot of things. Now, this next piece is kind of a given, but it's really important. When you take a new job with a company, you need to succeed early. It is really important. Those first 90 days, those first 6 months, it's important to get up to speed, build relationships, and perform your role at a high level. That's one of the reasons I like asking about the expectations. If you know what the expectations are for the role, what they're going to be expecting you to do, what they're going to want you to deliver, it makes you a lot more comfortable with going, yeah, I can do that. I can come in, I can do a good job. That way, as they're evaluating, was I a good hire 3 months in, they look and go, yeah, this person is really accomplishing the goals we put in front of them. The benchmarks we are hoping they hit, they are hitting them. That is another way to protect yourself from risk, because nobody wants to let go of a new person who comes in and is absolutely crushing it. It's one thing if you come in and they're like, okay, we have to let go of a few people. Well, we've got a whole bunch of loyal, good employees who have been here for a long time, and we have a couple new people, and the new people aren't doing great. That's pretty easy. But if you come in and you're absolutely crushing it, you're going to be protected, because at the end of the day, most bosses are going to choose performance over keeping a person who's a lower performer who have been there for a long time. So one of the other things you can do to absolutely insulate yourself from risk is be a great performer and right out of the gate, accomplish your goals, hit your objectives, and be one of those people where they go, yeah, this was a great hire. I'm so glad we found this person. Now, one of the things you want to make sure you're doing is you want to make sure you nail the final interview, because that's going to increase the likelihood of you getting that job offer. The thing is, final interviews are much different than all the other interviews in the process. It's why I made this video here. This video here is going to teach you exactly what you need to do if you want to nail your final interview. So I'm done here, but I will see you over there.